Greetings to everyone on the second video. We have another interesting topic, and I will not detain you. Let's get started. Story 1 from user deleted. Probably gonna get a load of abuse, but I can't help feeling like cryptocurrency is the world's biggest scam, possibly ever in all history. Millions of people have been convinced that they should trade collective billions of fiat currency for internet tokens with no intrinsic value that don't do anything, in a way of getting rich quick. They'll say they like the tech, or it will be revolutionary and doom the current financial system by giving power to the masses. All cult BS. Crypto doesn't solve any problems that people have. It's been around for over a decade, and there is no mass adoption. It's not useful at all. People just like it because their number goes up. But when the music stops and people run for the exits, they will get burnt. It's a less than zero-sum game. Money only goes into the crypto ecosystem via people paying their money for crypto. Money leaves via mining costs, exchange fees, etc. How is everyone here going to get rich? There's not any real or tangible value here. It's a real emperor has no clothes moment. Who knows how long it will carry on for? Story 2 from user WaterBaby333. College. In the US anyway. College in the US literally doesn't care if their students leave the institution educated. They just care about taking your money while you're here and getting as many people on board as possible. We see colleges just straight up abusing fresh adults who are told this is their only option. Many universities are accepting more students than they can handle and shoving extra kids into a room barely big enough for 2 people, let alone 3. Living on campus is a scam anyway for most universities. It's not worth the price to share a small room and bathrooms and eat crappy food, which you are also required to buy if you live on campus, and is also a ripoff. I want to make sure my future kids know about the benefits of community college, trade schools, or heck even in state institutions. I hear of kids going out of state and paying $40K plus a year just to live. It's honestly sickening. Story 3 from user Smashbusters. Cryptocurrency. You adopt early, they're easy to mine and cheap. The later you adopt, the harder they are to mine, and the more expensive they are. That's very important for the early adopters. There are diminishing returns inherent to them, which makes sense. The diminishing returns I speak of take into account their growing value over time. With their current popularity, there is now a huge base of unsavvy investors to keep it afloat, and then a small base of savvy investors waiting to turn a profit. The fact the price of electricity could become more volatile and that mining is now a non-negligible contributor to greenhouse emissions is the dynamite in the experiment. The savvy investors can slowly sell off their supply over time so as to not cause a crash. The unsavvy investors will hold on, mine, buy, and sell more or less as statistical noise. Eventually, the electricity chawing greenhouse problem catches up, and it becomes socially irresponsible for companies to accept them. They also become unprofitable to mine. Now all these coins can only be used to buy things in the black market, so their value plummets. So, what's the flaw in my logic? Story 4 from user TemporaryTune8376. Escape from Tarkov. It's a complex gambling engine. It gets people addicted to items popping up on the screen one after another, like slot wheels. And then it deprives people of space to keep the items, in order to get them to pay more money for a little more space, or to get them to pay for new accounts when they get banned for hacking to get stuff to sell other addicts for real money. You see video clips of gunfights, which are awesome, but you usually don't see all of the time between fights, where people are just moving trash around in tiny boxes and wondering how much things cost. If you don't check into the game periodically, in days, then the game takes things away from you. It has timers that last anywhere from real hours to real days, so it incentivizes you to look at the game at different parts of your day and week. It has scores of arbitrary quests that amount to going places far from each other in maps, shooting people, or finding randomly generated items. And if you watch streamers, you see in general that they don't enjoy the quests, but rather they get excited when they turn it in and hear the little completion sound. We got that one done, which gives us more space. Big win. We got that one done. Awesome. It's generally never, oh, this one is amazing. I really enjoy this. The game requires grinding for hundreds and thousands of hours to access content. And then, after roughly 6 months, your entire character and inventory is reset to 0, and the entire thing starts again. I played it for about 20 hours, and it dawned on me just how unfun so many things are about it, how rude it is. There are plenty of other examples in the game, but that's it in a nutshell. Story 5 from user deleted. Car culture and car-dependent infrastructure. Cities build huge roads using federal or state grants, but don't have the tax revenue to support their maintenance. Municipalities in the US take on a shit ton of debt to finance and maintain car-centered infrastructure with the hope that they'll get some monopoly money from the feds at some point. Urban sprawl generates very little tax revenue as opposed to low-rise density, a more organic form of urbanization. Not to mention it forces people to own cars to get around, which isn't cheap. Between insurance, gas, registration, and buying the damn thing in the first place, having to own a car places a huge strain on household finances, especially those with lower incomes. There are a whole host of other problems related to health and car-centric urban sprawl too. Obviously, sitting down is bad, but the stress and air pollution that sitting in traffic exposes us to increases the risk of obesity, hypertension, and heart disease. On top of that, road noise up our sleep and productivity. I'm not telling you not to drive, but take every opportunity you can to make your community more walkable, bikeable, and transit-friendly. It's the best way forward if we want happy, healthy cities. Story 6 from user Cajun Revenge 7. Child Protective Services. Yes, there are cases where kids need to be removed from their parents, but they take this trash way too far. There is almost no parent in this country who has not done something that would cause CPS to take their kids. I have seen them threaten to take kids from a parent for not agreeing to the CP's worker's suggestion he not give his daughter a sugar-free Coke. Some parents aren't great, but it is always better to leave a child with their biological parents. Removing a child over BS is child abuse in itself. The worst part is, CPS has a long history of giving kids to abusers, who they treat much less strict than the actual parents. Some people make their living off having foster kids and getting that sweet, sweet government check every month. They take in 5+ of the kids and treat them like trash to save money wherever possible. It's a business and a scam. Don't let the 10–15% that need to be removed blind you from the overwhelming majority that are doing more damage than good, and they are doing it for profit. Story 7 from user Radiant Importance 5. Weddings. Not necessarily marriage, but that's another can of worms. The weddings, and all things accompanying them, are severely overpriced, especially the second you say it's for a wedding. Engagement rings with huge diamonds. Official invitations on custom cardstock and envelope. You have to rent the church or other venue of the wedding itself, plus staff and decorations. The gentlemen have to wear suits or better, which aren't cheap. Wedding dresses for the bride cost as much as a car, if you're lucky, plus all the bridesmaids' dresses. Then the reception venue, unless you choose the same venue for the wedding and reception, plus staff and decorations. Food for the guests, some amount of alcohol in most cases, non-alcoholic beverages either way. DJs, and sometimes song rights too. Professional photographer. It's generally expected to go on honeymoon immediately after the reception, which is almost always a destination for an extended period of time. And heaven help you if you don't do any of these things in a big or specific enough way, or forget someone's cousin, or make the slightest mistake at any point, and you never hear the end of it. Too picky? You're a bridezilla. Not enough? It's like you didn't even care. In-laws were not quite as polite as they could have been? Hope those genes don't show up in your kids. Didn't spend enough time with you, beloved? You'll probably be divorced soon. Spent too much time with them? Get a room, you sickos. There are children present. On and on it goes. Story 8 from user Klutzy Cantaloupe 927. This scam is active today, and I guarantee anyone that has eaten at a sit-down restaurant in the US has been taken by this. Warning: if you are a server at a restaurant with poor internal controls, do not read any further. This article is boring and not relevant to you at all. Our scene opens with a middle-aged couple and their 2 teenage kids sitting in a booth at their favorite neighborhood restaurant. They have just finished brunch, and mom is signing the credit card receipt, including what she feels is a decent tip for their server. She pushes the little tray with all the receipts back to the middle of the table and picks up her purse. Dad is anxious to get home because this is Master's Sunday, and he plans on spending the rest of the day in front of the TV in the garage. He has told his kids that they are welcome to help him clean the garage today, so he knows he won't see them again until it's time for school tomorrow morning. Mom is onto Dad's plan and knows that no actual garage cleaning will happen today, but she's a good partner and goes along with the ruse. Little does Dad know that Mom is keeping up with his hours of golf watched allowance, returns to spouse's account, Hogwarts for short, and plans on debiting that account heavily next weekend. The family gets up and walk to the door, giving a little wave to their server on the way out. Their server collects the receipts, noting that the family left her an $11 tip, which is meh, considering those snotty kids and their 14 refills of Mountain Dew. What kind of parent allows their kids to drink that much Mountain Dew at brunch? The right amount of Mountain Dew at any time of the day is 0. The server also notices that the customer did not take any receipts with them, so the merchant receipt goes to the front of the closed tickets for the day. The customer receipt copy goes straight into the trash. At the end of the shift, the server takes out the family's merchant receipt, and 2 strokes of a pen, later that tip is now a $14 tip. Or at $17 tip. Or if the restaurant has poor internal accounting controls, it doesn't matter what is written on the tip line. The server can enter whatever value they want when closing out receipts for the shift, and the customer is normally none the wiser. The customer isn't going to remember how much they tipped or what the bill total was before the tip. And they certainly aren't going to be able to prove what they tipped because they didn't keep their receipt. It is possible that the customer took a photo of the receipt, but a review of the scene above should lead the reader to conclude that Mom was ready to get the hell out of there and did not take this extra step. If you want to catch this scam, you have to do 2 things. First, always take and save the customer copy of the credit card receipt and write down what you tip. The simple act of taking the receipt will make some servers second guess adding a little extra to your bill. Second, reconcile that receipt with your bank account. If this second step seems like too much work, that's why the scam works. Story 9 from User Round Reading 2674. The cell phone industry, mainly cell phone finance plans and contracts. I worked for AT&T for many years, and it was unreal how many people had no clue they were being ripped off. I eventually developed a conscience and decided not to sell the 80-wire couple a 2-wire contract on a tablet that they got for free that was basically a piece of junk and they would never use, and eventually started giving this same advice and ended up saving people thousands of dollars during my last 6 months there until I resigned. Word of advice: go with any major carrier's pay-as-you-go plan. AT&T uses GoPhone, for example. It's a pay-by-month service, and you only pay the sales tax from your state, or if you are lucky enough to live in a state where there is no sales tax bonus. This avoids all of those crazy nonsense fees that are on your monthly contract bill. There are also dozens of ways to finance or purchase your new phone as well, and there is quite literally no good reason ever to set foot in a cell phone store, ever, ever, ever. The sales staff are trained to drink the corporate Kool-Aid and will feed you whatever you like to hear, just as long as they make the sale. They are worse than a door-to-door salesperson, in my opinion. I was one of them, and I feel like a whopping POS every time I think about the people I would knowingly rip off just so I could make a few extra bucks in my commission checks. If you made it this far, please heed my advice and look into what I am referring to seriously. Thanks to everyone who was here today. See you tomorrow on new topics. Bye-bye.